I spent a cold night on the hillside, lying on the soft heather. I did not have a coat, nor my watch, nor my pipe. These were with Mr. Turnbull, as was Scudder's little book. All I had to eat were the ginger biscuits I had bought from the van earlier. I woke about an hour after dawn. I was cold, stiff, and very tired, but I had no time to rest further. Looking down into the valley, I could see policemen. They were only a few hundred yards away, spaced out on the hillside like a fan. I pulled on my boots and ran. For maybe half a mile, they did not see me. Then I had to break cover and come out into the open ground. Suddenly, I heard a whistle and shouts from the policemen behind me. One shouted, "There he is!" I kept running, frequently changing direction to confuse the chasing pack. The exercise warmed my blood. I was beginning to enjoy myself. I even waved back at the men chasing me, but I quickly realised this was not a schoolboy game. The men behind me were young and strong. This was their local area. I only knew what was on the map. Only 3 men were now coming after me directly. The others would be trying to get in front of me. I came to a high road. In front of me was a big field of heather leading to another hillside. I followed the ditch for a few hundred yards. Now I was out of sight of the highway. To my surprise, the grass stopped. I was now on a new private road. In the distance, I could see a building. I hesitated. I could not turn back without running into the police. I left the road but continued in the same direction, using the trees and bushes for cover. I came to an old farmhouse with a lawn leading to French windows. Through the glass, I could see the face of an elderly gentleman. He was watching me. There was no way back now. I walked across the lawn and through the French windows. Inside, the room was full of books. On the floor, there were no tables or chairs. Instead, there were display cabinets like you see in a museum. These were full of old coins. There was a desk in the middle. Sitting behind it was the old gentleman. His face was round and shiny, and he wore big glasses. These were stuck on the end of his nose. The top of his head was bright and bare like a glass bottle. The bald man didn't move when I entered. He waited for me to speak. I did not know what to say. For a moment, I simply stared at him. "You seem in a hurry, my friend," he said slowly. "They are hunting me," I said. I stopped, unable to continue. I was breathing fast. I nodded towards the window. Through a gap in the hedge, you could see across the moor. In the far distance, tiny blue figures were advancing. The elderly gentleman picked up some binoculars from his desk. Without moving from his chair, he looked out into the distance. "Ah, I see," he said. "The police are after you." "It's a mistake," I said. "You see—" "I believe you," said the bald man smoothly. "But you haven't got time to explain now. First, we need to hide you while I deal with the police. Go through that door and you'll see 2 doors facing you. Take the one on the left. close it behind you. You will be perfectly safe." And this extraordinary man picked up his pen again. The door behind me shut, clicking like the door of a safe. Instantly, I began to feel uneasy. Why had the bald man not been surprised to see me? Why would he hide a stranger from the police? No sound came to me in that dark place. Time passed. Had the police arrived? Were they searching the house? Surely they would ask to search this room. Finally, the door opened. The old gentleman stood before me. "Good morning, Mr. Hannay." As he spoke, his eyelids trembled and fell over his grey eyes. In a flash, Scudder's description came back to me. I had walked straight into the enemy's headquarters. I had only one chance. "I don't know what you mean," I said. "My name is Ainsley." "Really?" he said, still smiling. "We won't quarrel about a name." Suddenly, he switched to German. "You have been in Africa?" he asked. I stared at him blankly. "I don't understand," I said. "You are a clever actor, Mr. Hannay," he said, "but not quite clever enough." Yet I could see doubt in his face. From behind him, I could hear German voices. The old man turned and said, "Guard him while I am away." Then the door shut again. I looked around me. The windows were shuttered and it was very dark, but I seemed to be in some sort of farmhouse storeroom. There was no carpet on the uneven floor and nothing to sit down on. Boxes and barrels lined the walls. There were also heavy sacks. Everything smelled of damp and dust. I could hear the guards moving outside the door. I sat down in the cold darkness. I knew I had very little time. Unless I could escape this room, I was a dead man. I began moving the boxes. Was there anything that could help me? It didn't appear so. Then I felt a handle in the wall. It was some sort of cupboard. I tried to open it, but it was locked. I took off my belt and tied it around the handle. Suddenly, I managed to force it open. I looked back at the door. Had the guards heard anything? There was no sound from them. I began exploring the cupboard shelves with my hand. The first thing I felt was a cardboard box with one rough side. Matches. I struck a light. It went out in a second, but showed me there were electric torches on one shelf. I picked up one. It worked. With the torch, I investigated further. There were chemicals and coils of wire. There was a box of detonators, and inside a cardboard box was a wooden case. I forced open the case. In it were 6 little grey bricks. I took up one and smelt it. I knew that smell from my time as a mining engineer. It was gunpowder. With one of these bricks, I could destroy the house. I had used explosives in Africa. I knew their power, but that had been a long time ago. My knowledge was not exact. Should I risk blowing myself into the sky I had no other option. I got a detonator and fixed it to some fuse wire. Then I took a quarter of a gunpowder brick. I placed it close to the door. I stood just below the windowsill and lit the fuse. For a moment, only the sound of the hens outside broke the silence. I said a prayer. This could be it, Richard Hannay. A great wave of heat rose up from the floor. The wall opposite me flashed golden yellow and crumbled. Something dropped on me, catching my left shoulder. Seconds later, I was coughing through thick yellow fumes. I climbed to my feet. Somewhere behind me, I felt fresh air. I turned and walked through the broken wall. I felt pain all over my body, but I had no time to rest or treat my injuries. I began running and did not stop until I was many miles from that terrible house.